Hello and welcome to each of you listening to this conversation. What you are listening to not only took weeks in the making, but rather took months of planning, development, and work in order for us to come together to promote racial justice, equity, and inclusion. Our task here was not only just to address the current situation that is going on in our own nation, but rather to start the conversation for ourselves, in our community, and here at our own university, at the University of Texas at El Paso. We ask now that for each of you to sit down and grab your headphones, and let's listen to these discussions together that are about to take place between our student leaders, our faculty, and our staff.
Hi, my name is Matthew Garcia. I'm serving as the Senate Majority Leader in the Student Government Association, and today, through the collaboration of our student leaders from SGA and the Black Student Union, we will drive a critical discussion on the topics of racial justice, equity, and inclusion. Today, you will hear from UTEP President Heather Wilson, BSU member Faith Johnson, SGA Senator Samantha Morales, BSU Vice President Kyra Lewis, and SGA Vice President of External Affairs Austin Stevens. This discussion is part of a TWC Together We Commit initiative, a UTEP Athletics initiative and campaign led by a group of student athletes dedicated to promoting awareness and change around racial injustice, all while reflecting back on our school's history of leading the way towards positive change during the civil rights movement. So, let's hear what our student leaders have to say.
Why do you think it's important for universities to support something like the TWC initiative, like the Together We Commit initiative that student athletics started here on our campus?
I think it's important because it reminds this generation of a continued obligation to lead, to address issues that have not been addressed sufficiently, and to take responsibility based on who we are. This university, its student body, its faculty, its staff have led the way with respect to racial integration in higher education and opening doors to opportunity for those who have previously been underserved. And that obligation to lead, to me, is what TWC is all about. And I give a lot of credit to the students and the athletic department for connecting where we are in this moment in time in this country to our heritage as a leading institution. And for the athletic department, it's kind of that 1966 team, that they changed American athletics and higher education. They changed not only college basketball, but all college sports. And we should be proud of that.
What kind of a responsibility do you feel that, this university has moving forward to address, more specific issues on racial injustice, especially the more modern day issues?
Yeah, we're doing a review here on policing to make sure that we've got that right. That involves a number of student leaders. But I also think that UTEP's commitment to access to excellent education, we've never backed away from opening the doors to education, not just to the privileged, not just to the wealthy or those who grew up with opportunity, but to everyone who wants a shot at the dream. And that's very different from what a lot of colleges and universities have done. And I think we all feel very strongly that that's the right thing to do. And it's the right thing for the future of the country and of Texas, but also for the students whom we serve. And we have over 90% of the students at UTEP are minorities. And they are exceeding, our retention rate here for students is higher than the average for selective universities. UTEP has shown how to pursue excellence without denying access to those who are underserved. And to me, it's not just a racial issue, it's a socioeconomic issue.
The university was compiling a committee of student leaders to address or make a report on policing, correct?
Yes.
Would you be able to touch a little bit more on that?
Sure. When we brought students and faculty staff together after the George Floyd incident, we said, look, do we have a problem here? Do we have a problem in our own police department? And in general, the answer was no, we don't. But the time to address issues and make sure that we're doing everything that we should to maintain a high standard is before we have a big problem. And so that group, it includes 9 people from all over the university, quite a few students as well as faculty and staff. And it's intended to take a look at training, policies, response to complaints, make sure that we have proper oversight in place so that if we don't want to be one bad hire away from having a terrible problem. We want the way in which we set the standards and expectations to be best in class. And one of the ways to ensure that is to get an outside group to come in, take a look, and make sure we're doing everything that we should be doing. If we think that there's an issue with policing generally in America, we can advocate to change the world, but changing the world starts with where we are. And most policing is at a local level. And for us, we have our own police force. And as I said, we didn't identify from our students I sat down with probably 7 or 8 different groups of students and faculty and staff, and none of them identified a problem here on campus or even in El Paso. All of them said they had problems at other places or in other cities. And while I felt reassured by that, I don't think we should be complacent about that. And actually, the police department welcomes an external look, an external review. They want to be the best they possibly can be and prevent any problems. And so I think this is a way to do it, but it's also a way to say to the community, the campus community, okay, we have to be part of the solution. This is hard work. It's going to take a lot of time to do this right. So let's do the work.
One of the issues that you brought up that many people in the Black community face are microaggressions. Now, can you explain what microaggressions are and how people can avoid subjugating other people to them?
Yeah. So a few common examples is that your real hair, you're so articulate, and where are you really from? So all of those are common examples of microaggressions. And so what a microaggression is, it is unintentional or subtle discriminations against a specific group of people. And really, to put it in simpler terms, it is offensive remarks fueled by ignorance. That's all that it is. And a lot of people will say that, well, I didn't intend it, I didn't mean that. That's exactly what a microaggression is. So really, to combat these remarks is to, how should I say it, is to really educate yourself on what you're saying and what you're doing. That is a big part of it. I mean, it's 2020. There's no more excuses. There's absolutely no more excuses. You have to learn what we weren't taught in school. You have to go out and actively learn it now. So racial slurs, blackface, and fetishizing the Black population, these are what people have to understand. And so once they understand that, they can really determine what to say to a person of color. And honestly, it's tying back into common sense, but that's what microaggressions is. Sometimes people don't know what they've said. And so again, it is 2020. We have to be more mindful of what we say to others, especially during such high tensions. Like, it's really messy right now, so we have to be mindful.
Kyra, would you like to tell us a little bit about who you are and what kind of a role do you play on campus, especially in the Black Student Union?
Of course. So I'm Kyra Lewis. I'm the vice president for the Black Student Union. I'm a senior here on campus and a nursing major. Okay,
cool. So, Kyra, my first question that I have for you is, how have the recent events in our nation impacted you?
So personally, recent events, it's not so much as a recent thing, because for as long as I can remember, as long as I've had a social media presence, it's been, the publicizing of police brutality and, of black people dying at the hands of police, and, things going to trial and then going silent and being forgotten about. However, because of COVID, we've been forced to see this on our screens continuously, nonstop. So it's been very in our face. And so now it's more So of a different type of frustration and anger because you feel like there's nothing that you can do. And so the automatic thing is, okay, so how can I implement some type of change? What can I do? And the answer for myself and a few of the other members of the Black Student Union on campus was to participate in the protest, was to spread information based on, you know, the recent news, the things that were coming out via social media, petitions and such like that, and then making sure that the people around me stayed informed on the court cases and the proceedings that went with that. So the Breonna Taylor one, that is, you know, very tragic, the most recent one, to remind people, you know, just because it goes to court doesn't necessarily always mean you'll have justice, which means, you know, we still have to keep fighting.
What can our campus do to support Black students and support equality and inclusion of all members of our minor community here?
Yeah, so the biggest motivation, you know, would come from the top, you know, with this TWC, the initiative that's coming from SGA and President Wilson, two of the highest, you know, stature symbols at UTEP. It makes it a lot easier for other organizations and other students to follow suit. The average Black student at UTEP, they tend to be a lot more involved in the Black student unions and the things that we're doing. However, maybe if we reached out more towards athletics, who make up a big bulk of the huge 4% that Black students make up at UTEP, but athletics, to get them more involved and on board in some of the things that we're trying to do, and then to reach out to the people who are aware that the BSU is here, but don't necessarily show up to some of the things that we're doing. So in order to answer your question, is to reach those who need to be reached, but don't necessarily show out every time there's an opportunity. But I think we have a really good opportunity doing things virtually because, you know, people don't have to leave their homes anymore. You can, on your screen, you can watch a forum or you can watch some type of informational. I know there's been a few forums that our president and myself have been on that have been on the SGA and have been on UTEP's platform. So doing things like that to make things easier for people to do it now, hopefully will keep the momentum post-COVID when we're able to have face-to-face interactions again.
My name is Austin Stevens, and I currently sit as Vice President for External Affairs for the Student Government Association. So basically, I'm all your communications and Secretary of State, basically.
What is student government's response to focus on equity and inclusion and social justice?
So Matt, you're asking a great question. And to be honest with you, I don't really think that there is a direct answer. But the way that we have, and we are going to continue pursuing it, is we do this on a daily basis. We do this in everything that we do. And it's because we serve on behalf of the people. And that should be the goal and the task of every government at every level, is to hear their people's concerns and their matters first in order to take action. And that is what you're seeing here. So what we're also doing as well is that we have actions that have been taken, you know, from the start of this when the nation was uproared in May. And we decided moving forward that we needed to take action. And our senators and our student government have been very vigilant and very responsive in making sure that we are having these conversations. So today, we decided to start with that first, is to have a conversation, to listen to what is actually going on, the story within our immediate community, to where our students are affected.
My name is Samantha Morales. I am a senator at large for the UTEP Student Government Association. This is my first term also in office.
So my first question for you, Sam, is why did you decide to be a student leader? Why did you decide to join student government?
The primary reason why I wanted to join student government is genuinely just to help people around campus, to raise UTEP morale, to make everybody feel proud to be a minor, honestly, and just to help people and address certain issues on campus and make our campus better.
And where do you think that role has kind of shifted now with everything going on from the pandemic to these new issues of racial injustice that are spreading across our country?
Well, 2020 has been a heck of a year, for sure. So there have been a lot of issues that have come up, not only in El Paso, but in the whole country. So as a student government association, I think that we have to help people not only with their mental health, with their schoolwork, but with any issues that they have at all. So it's our job as student government leaders to reach out to our constituents and to see what they need, to see what problems they have, to see how we can address them, to start the conversation. And in terms of the racial injustices that have been happening, the work that we've done today and us working with the Black Student Union has spoken volumes, I think, for sure.
I think you gave a pretty interesting answer as to why you wanted to become a student leader and join student government. But is there anyone that you looked up to for inspiration?
Absolutely. So primarily my parents. They were the first ones who really got me to be a student leader. My mother, she came here to UTEP. She was born in Durango, Mexico, and she's a first-gen college student, of course. And also my dad, he is an African-American lawyer practicing law here in Texas, and he's also part of the El Paso Black Democrats as well. So their influences really shaped me to be the woman that I am today. But those are the personal influences that I have had. But I also look to Kamala Harris. So regardless of your political views, no matter who you vote for, Kamala Harris is really a beautiful and amazing inspiration to women everywhere. And for the first time in history, in American history, do I get to see someone who looks like me on the biggest stage that our country has to offer. And win, lose, draw, whatever happens in this election, it doesn't really matter. She truly is an inspiration for women who want to go into politics and represent people genuinely.
For our next segment, we will be in the Bhutan Lounge and we will hear a couple of words from Dr. Ann Horak and Cedric Dorman. Dr. Ann Horak is an associate professor of practice for the College of Liberal Arts, and she will speak on several topics concerning racial justice, equity, and inclusion. Cedric Dorman is a Black Student Union member, and he will speak on combating racism in our community.
There's lots of ways to get involved with anti-racism efforts in the community and on campus. In the community, there are organizations like the YWCA of El Paso, the El Paso Holocaust Museum, and the Diversity and Resiliency Institute of El Paso, which is a special project of the Borderland Rainbow Center. Find these organizations on social media, see what kind of trainings and programmings they're offering, and get involved. Here on campus, we have organizations like the Black Student Union and ARISE, which is the Academic Revival of Indigenous Studies and Education. Faculty and staff are forming groups like the Black Affinity Group and the Anti-Racism Task Force. Again, find out what programs are being offered and where you can fit in. If there isn't an organization that speaks to you or a program that you feel is meeting the needs, start one yourself. You can reach out to the Student Government Association and volunteer with them and ask them to put on the type of programming that you want to see. What's important is that you get involved in these efforts. The best thing that you can do to fight racism is register to vote. Young people do not vote at a level in this country high enough for politicians to pay attention to their concerns. Many politicians ignore the youth and the issues that they're most interested in because they know they don't have to worry about that demographic. If young people turn out to vote and get their friends to turn out to vote, they will be taken more seriously. And it is usually the young people in this country that are driving the social justice agendas that are the most important to many of us. I think UTEP can move forward on issues of racial justice, equity, and inclusion by doing more of what they have been doing in the last few months. It's really been wonderful to see how students and faculty and staff have come together in the last few months. They've been forming groups, they've been holding webinars, virtual lectures, virtual meetings. They've been speaking in the community, representing UTEP and the greater El Paso community around these issues. What we don't want to happen is that we lose momentum, that after this time passes, after the election passes, we let some of these issues go. When we're back on campus together, we need to continue to have meetings, to hold webinars, to have rallies, to have events. We also need to push for more classes being offered, more lectures being offered around these issues. We need to listen to the voice of the students as well, not assume that the faculty and staff know what students want covered and what topics they want discussed, but let the students tell us, what kind of issues they're more interested in having the university investigate inside or outside of the classroom.
So combating racism in our community is something that we all need to take part of as a whole, because this problem has been going on for many decades, and it's about time that we all put a stop to it. We are the progressive era, so it's up to us to put our foot down and start defending ourselves and using our own voices in order to earn the respect that we all deserve. So how to combat racism in the community. So don't be afraid to call it out, especially if it's amongst your family members or your friends. I know it can be very scary, but please guys, don't let that hold you back from doing the right thing. Personally, I know that when I was in those types of situations, it was very scary for me to speak up and put my own foot down, because I felt like if I did, there would be so much backlash. But I learned in recent years, and I matured, that putting my own foot down and making myself uncomfortable is in the end what's gonna make me comfortable with being myself. Learn how to spot all the microaggressions that you do see. Microaggressions are very subtle things that can go under the table if not paid attention to. Learn to pay closer attention to people's body language, their tone of voice, their speech patterns. Just really pick apart what people are saying and doing. And once you start learning how to do that, you'll start seeing that microaggressions do happen on a daily basis without people even realizing what's happening. And please don't speak over people of color. I know it can light a fire in you, and you will feel like you need to do all that you can to defend people against racism. But remember that there is a very thin line between defending people and speaking over people. I've seen it happen multiple times, and it's very saddening. It's very saddening because I know that they had the right intentions, but they ended up using their own voice and their own selves and push themselves before other people. And that's not something that you should be doing. You should be using your own platform as an ally to further their platforms and make sure that their voices are being heard, not just yours. And please just give them the floor whenever you can. And also, please educate yourself, but don't use other people's traumas as a means to educate yourself. We are all adults here. We all have resources that we can use to learn the difference from right and wrong. It's up to you to start teaching yourself about racial issues, not using other people's experiences and other people's traumas to further your own intelligence. We're all adults. Again, we all know the difference between right and wrong. It's just a matter of you using the resources that you have around you to further that intelligence and further that integrity. Don't use their trauma as textbooks.
This next segment will take place in the Foster Stevens basketball complex, and we will have the opportunity to hear a critical discussion on racial justice issues between SGA and UTEP Athletics. Right now, you will hear from SGA Vice President of Internal Affairs Dominic Kelly and UTEP Volleyball student athletes Kenidy Howard, Alianza Darley, and Serena Patterson. Joining them in this segment will be UTEP men's head basketball coach Rodney Terry.
So, Dominic Kelly, as a vice president of SGA, what kind of an impact does an initiative like the TWC campaign have on the university as a whole?
So UTEP is a very, very diverse campus. We have a lot of different backgrounds. We have students from Bhutan. We have students from our neighboring country, Mexico. We have African-American students. We also have students from Korea, everywhere around the world. And so being a part of the TWC campaign shows our commitment to being inclusive with all minority groups on our campus, which is very, very important in a time like this, where we have a lot of racial injustices going on. And so it lets us have that conversation that includes everybody.
Now, what can SGA do to further support this initiative?
Well, Student Government Association can do a lot. We work a lot with different governing bodies and different student organizations here on campus to put this whole event together. We worked a lot with athletics to put this whole TWC event together. SGA is for the students to come and express their concerns about anything. It doesn't necessarily have to be about racial issues. It could be about anything you imagine, right? We have a bunch of elected representatives who represent all 24,000 plus students on our campus. And so we really just want to hear what it is you all are saying so we can figure out more or less what it is we can do in terms of taking action to improve our campus.
Right. So it is my understanding that you were part of the TWC committee, the people who first formed this initiative, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Now, can you tell me a little bit more about how this initiative came about?
Yes, right after the death of George Floyd, it really sparked some tension around the country, and we, the student athletes, really were extremely passionate about it and came to the athletic director and wanted to spark some change and use our voice and speak up on it together.
I'm glad you did that. I'm pretty sure it means a lot, not just to the student athletes, but to the whole student body as well. Now, do you think that the initiative should continue on until next year, or where do you see it going?
Of course, I feel like this is a very powerful thing that we started here, and I feel like it's very important for the incoming students and student athletes to really understand the significance behind it and really understand what it's about.
So, Ellie, can you tell me a little bit about yourself and who you are?
My name is Alianza Darley. I am from Las Vegas, Mexico. I'm a sophomore and I play on the volleyball team.
All right. So, Ms. Darley, what does the TWC initiative mean to you?
It means a lot to me. It's really important to me knowing that I'm a part of an athletic program that embraces diversity and acknowledges the fact that racial injustice occurs and has occurred. It's really nice knowing that we can be a part of the change to end racism.
Right. Now, why do you think it's important for student athletes or athletes in general to speak out about racial justice?
As a Black student athlete, I know what it's like to be looked at differently because of my skin color. It is important that I continue to use my platform to speak on racial injustice. Racism has negatively impacted the lives of many Black people, and if you don't speak on racism, it's the same as saying racial injustice doesn't exist.
So, Ms. Patterson, can you tell me a little bit about yourself and who you are?
Yes, my name is Serena Patterson. I'm a junior here at UTEP and I play volleyball. I'm also from Dallas, Texas.
So, Ms. Patterson, what does the TWC initiative mean to you?
The TWC initiative means a lot to me. I feel like it's really important in bringing support to the student athletes and just showing love and just letting us know that we're in this together and we're gonna fight for change.
Now, as a student athlete, how do you plan on using your platform to bring about more awareness about racial justice?
With me being a student athlete, I plan on using my voice to spread positivity and to speak up when I know there's something bothering people and to speak up about change in a positive manner.
All right. Now, can I ask you how this initiative came about and why did you decide to join the TWC committee?
I think this initiative came about due to just how 2020 is gone and how there's been a lot of racial divide in the world. I feel like I joined this committee because as a African-American student athlete, I feel like it's important to use my voice and to spread positivity, and also it's important to change what's going on.
Well, when you look at TWC, you got Texas Western College, again, which is significant for us because, again, we're unlike any institution around the country. We have a national championship in the 1966 team that was known as Texas Western College at that time. And they got a chance, again, to create change in intercollegiate athletics as a whole. The face was changed in terms of what transpired during that championship season and in that championship game. Where Coach Haskins showed the courage to start 5 Black players against 5 all-white players from the University of Kentucky. And we had a chance to win a national championship, and significance of that changed the entire face of intercollegiate athletics as we know today. With everything that was transpiring in terms of the racial tensions that we have around our country right now, I thought that our leadership did a great job in coming together and trying to see what can we do and what initiative can we take as an athletic department in terms of being able to make our student athletes and our students on campus, for that matter, feel included and also have a platform to where they're able to have their voices heard and be a part of change as well. You know, we want to create an environment where we have love and respect on this campus. We also want to support equity in education. Education is important. That's why you're here. And we also hopefully have some leading to some changes as well. You know, the TWC initiative is something that we should take a lot of pride in on this campus. Again, it came from great ideas of collaboration from our leadership. And again, we're trying to include everyone. We're trying to have a very diverse group that's a part of change. I'm excited to be a part of that. I know our student athletes are excited about being a part of that. And hopefully, you know, they have an opportunity at some point to lead some change as well into the future.